Hello.
Hello.
And welcome
Welcome to Something New.
to Movies You Miss podcast.
Welcome, everybody. Hope you're ready.
I'm V.
And I'm John.
This is a podcast about movies you miss, maybe movies that flew under the radar, that didn't get the love that they deserved when they were first released or were super underrated.
Definitely. And we're also going to be talking about some gems that are worth revisiting from the past as well.
We will each be picking a movie every week, summarizing it, and telling everybody what we enjoyed about it, and either why we think it missed getting attention the first time around, or why this gem from the past is worth revisiting. Hopefully you'll get some good recommendations and watch some movies you wouldn't have otherwise been introduced to, or get reminded of some great films from your past that have been buried for a little while. John, you want to tell our audience why we started this podcast and how we got into movies?
I am somebody that has just been very passionate about the cinematic industry. I really fell in love with it as a kid. More in 1993 when Jurassic Park came out, because that really just unleashed a mass imagination. And the fact that that was made by people that were just making a movie, there was something about the fact that I could have done that too. So I jumped into the entertainment industry after a few years after I left high school, and I spent a very, very long time in it, and I had a great time working in it, and also a horrendous time working in it. V and I also worked on a movie together. She worked on one of my music video projects that I directed back in the day. Back in the day, like almost over a decade ago, I would say at this point now. But yeah, this podcast I think is going to be a lot of fun. V and I have been to the movies and watched a bunch of movies together in the past and known each other apparently 20 years now this year. So we are now going to be spending some more time together, audioly and videoly, and talking about movies that either I really like or she really likes, movies that I've heard of that she hasn't heard of, or vice versa. So that's one thing I'm excited about.
Absolutely, me too. And yes, like John, I spent a bunch of time in the movie industry after high school, after college, a little less than a decade. I focused mostly on special effects and stunt work. We ended up doing a couple of things together, a couple of projects, which was really fun. I was joking with John that this is our anniversary present to each other, is starting a podcast. So we have a reason to hang out and shoot the shit every week about the thing that we love, which is film. You know what I loved about it as a kid is I loved that you could be anything you wanted to be in a movie. And it opened up a world of possibilities for me growing up in a really small town. I was like, whoa, this person is a cop, or this person is a scientist, or this person, lives in this big city and, works for a large business doing like marketing or whatever it was. It just felt so cool to me that they could be who they wanted to be. They can dress how they wanted to dress. And everybody, for the most part, always says the right things. I would love a scripted day. Like, if someone could script what I say every day, my life would be so much less awkward. I'd really appreciate it.
Isn't that true? It really is. Yeah, because then, even if it's scripted, then you would hope somebody would just come out of the bushes like, no. Let's take that back. Let's go back. Come on. No. Do that how you'd really want to. Because just like in life and in movies even, I don't know if you. Sometimes I watch movies and I like, I don't know if I'd handle it that way. And
yes,
like, would I
often
actually do it? Like be that in real life, and who knows? But yeah, I like that. I just like the fact that there were bigger than life things on the screen. Like going back again to Jurassic Park, like when the T-Rex comes out of the paddock, it's just like, holy shit, that's insane.
Yeah, and the thing that really wanted me, first I had a love of movies, but then I wanted to be in the industry. And in 2001, The Fast and the Furious and Tomb Raider with Angelina Jolie came out the same year. And I was like, holy shit, I need to drive these cars. I need to jump into that tomb. I need to, swing on that pillar. And it just all looked so fun to me, which is where I was like, okay, I need to figure out how to do this job. And it turned into stunt work. And so, yeah, that's what led me to actually want to be in the industry. And yes, I loved the way you explained how you had a fantastic time and a horrible time in the industry, because I too experienced those same highs and lows. But yeah, it just gave me a greater love for film, and that's why we're both here.
Most definitely. This is gonna be fun, because there's gonna be a lot of interesting stories and tidbits coming in from our experiences, and then I can't wait to just discuss certain movies. Like I already, our next few episodes are stuff that you've never heard of or never seen, and likewise. So I can't wait for that.
Exactly. So should we kick this off?
let's kick it off.
All right. Do you want to go ahead and share with folks what your first pick is?
Alrighty, so jumping into my first film of the podcast of movies we missed, I am a big Danny Boyle fan. Danny Boyle is a director out of the UK. He came onto the scene in the early 90s with a film called Shallow Grave, which was written by John Hodge, starring Ewan McGregor, who we all know from several different movies, most notably these days, Dr. Sleep, and one of my all-time favorite movies of all time, again, I'm going to say it of all time, Trainspotting, and Moulin Rouge, Big Fish.
He's Obi-Wan.
There we go. He's in Star Wars, A Phantom Menace, and Attack of the Clones. I don't think of those ever when I think of Ewan McGregor as an actor, but a lot of people do. I very likely will watch Obi-Wan on Disney Plus because I just love me some McGregor. Mm-hmm. The film that I chose is one that whenever I bring it up, people really just are kind of like, yeah, no idea what that is. It's a movie called A Life Less Ordinary, and it reunites Danny Boyle with Ewan McGregor and producer Andrew McDonald and writer John Hodge. John Hodge wrote Shallow Grave. John Hodge adapted Trainspotting from novel to screen, and he also wrote A Life Less Ordinary. Danny Boyle directed all three, starring Ewan McGregor in all three. A Life Less Ordinary is a very strange little caper. I had never seen it until, I would say, about 8 years ago. I just was like, oh my gosh, a Danny Boyle movie that I've never seen. I grabbed it at a record store called Amoeba on Sunset Boulevard, which, rest in peace, the original location is now gone. It's up on Argyle in Hollywood now, but it's still a pretty cool little location, so Amoeba, still kicking ass. Back to A Life Less Ordinary, starring Ewan McGregor and Cameron Diaz. Cameron Diaz had just come on the scene with being in The Mask as Tina Carlisle, and she had done a couple other little bit parts here and there, but A Life Less Ordinary was one of her other major studio 20th Century Fox produced, and it's about these two people that come together because he is fired from his job and he essentially wants to get his job back, and in the midst of all of that ends up kidnapping his boss's daughter. And in also the midst of all of this, there are two angels that have been sent down from heaven by the archangel Gabriel to reunite people in love. And before any of this happens, before we meet Ewan McGregor's character and Cameron Diaz's character, we find out that these angels have been nothing but unsuccessful in reuniting people in love and keeping them in love. So, forwarding down to them getting on planet Earth, Ewan McGregor ends up kidnapping Cameron Diaz's character, and it just ends up being this very interesting little crime fantasy romance thing. And I think the romance thing comes from the fact that Ewan McGregor's character wants to be a trashy romance novel novelist, and it definitely has that trashy romance novel kind of feel to it, but it also has a lot of really like cerebral moments where you kind of, they're doing this karaoke thing and all of a sudden they're dressed beautifully and they're dancing this choreographed thing, and on top of this really, like trashy dive bar in the middle of the woods. And it's one of those movies that when I watched it, I didn't not smile from beginning to end. Like, it really is just like, it's just a fun fucking movie. Like, you could tell they had a blast making this movie.
I love seeing that when you can tell that everybody had a good time. Like, there's some movies that you watch, you're like, wow, they really didn't enjoy the time on the set.
Mm-hmm.
And it really does play across on screen, and I agree. And my question for you is, do you think that his karaoke in the bar was part of his audition that he sent in for Mulan?
Oh, for Moulin Rouge,
which was 4 years later.
Yeah, it's actually that's right. Yeah, because Moulin Rouge was 2001.
Yeah,
it's very possible. I mean, it's weird because when they cut to them being really like decked out on the bar, and he's like, she's dancing above him, and he's like, nah, and the way they're singing is so off fucking key. But the thing is, it's one of those things where it's charming because that they're just these fucking random people that are really wanting to kill this karaoke in front of these people that they don't know.
They're totally imperfect.
They're having fun, and that's all good and well, and we can get into why sometimes that doesn't work in other movies, but for whatever reason, in this one it just did, because Ewan McGregor's character was so unsure of everything else. He was just like, am I going to be a good carrier? Like, am I going to be okay at this? And like all of a sudden he has this fantasy where he's actually not good, but everybody's cheering him on because they're choreographed and dancing on the bar together and like really killing it. Again, like I said, it's one of those movies that when I watched it again, I hadn't watched it in maybe like a year and a half. And when we were talking about the first episode, I'm like, A Lifeless Ordinary has got to be my pick because I really like the fucking movie. And not because of Ewan McGregor and Cameron Diaz. They're great together. But I'm going to tell you right now, Holly Hunter is fucking hysterical in A Lifeless Ordinary. She is so funny.
She
as
went
this
for it.
Angel, as this angel bounty hunter. It's so fascinating. Like, if you blink in that movie, you almost kind of get lost. Like, if like you're really not paying attention to some of the dialogue, you do get lost. And that happened to me the first few times I watched it. Because all of a sudden, he's now a janitor in some diner with Tony Shalhoub. And it's like, wait a minute. Whoa. But then Tony Shalhoub alludes to it being like, you're a fugitive on the run, and she's this gorgeous woman coming to tell you that she loves you, and you're still thinking about mopping the floors? It's like,
what are you doing?
What is going on in this fucking movie? It's just such a strange movie.
For our older listeners, you'll know Holly Hunter from The Piano. For our younger listeners, you'll know Holly Hunter being Elastigirl in The Incredibles.
That's right, Mrs. Incredible. Yes.
She also has a notable supporting character role in Batman versus Superman as a senator. She's in that scene where they blow up the Senate hearing. Anyway, so that's where people will recognize her, and then of course Tony Shalhoub for TV fans, it was Monk. So that's where you'll recognize him from.
Yeah. I last year worked with Holly Hunter for a day on Mr. Mayor, the Ted Danson sitcom.
Yeah, how was that?
I actually did background, so I didn't have to do anything other than stand there.
Nice.
They threw me right in with her and Ted Danson in the scene, and she was very sweet. She was very, very sweet.
It's funny. I will get into this a little bit later too, but I'm a humongous fan of Timothy Olyphant. He's a total beanpole in real life. Oh my god, he is so skinny in real life. But this was only like his 5th credit, and he plays that hitchhiker.
Yeah.
And he actually said that he was on the shoot for a couple of days just so he could watch Holly work, because he really wanted to learn from her, and I thought that was really cool.
That's awesome. It's interesting because A Lifeless Ordinary, the release date of the movie was October 24th, 1997. Now, for those of us that are V and mine's age, which is short from 40 over 30.
Yes, thank you for that wide range that you've given both of us. You know what? That's what I'm gonna. Isn't
that a good one?
Yes,
I just came up with
that
it
from now on.
I think it's the bourbon. Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. So 1997 movie set in America. I don't know if you noticed, but there is a moment where they are driving in the car and they pull up to a gas station, and the young man is just like, "Hey, everybody! I'm here to make sure everything's good." Did you notice the price of gas?
I literally wrote that down for this episode because I had to talk about it, because
so did I.
Oh my god, I almost started weeping.
Yeah, it's
crying.
2022. This movie's 1997, so that is 2007's 10 years. 2017 is 20 years. It's almost 25 years ago.
We should make our audience guess how much gas was.
Oh, we really should. I do actually kind of want to just drop it on them though, but I'm going to tell you right now. Yeah, so a 1 gallon of unleaded gasoline in 1997 comes to $1.29.
Oh, God.
Yeah, gnarly, right?
I was going to say that makes my heart hurt, but it makes my wallet hurt. I love that we both wrote that down, though. Like, we're definitely over 30 with the fact that we noted that.
For sure. Gas prices. Another thing about A Lifeless Ordinary, and I think maybe why it really flew under the radar, was because people had just come out of the traumatic experience of Trainspotting. Trainspotting was released in 1996. This comes out in October of 1997. And those that had seen Trainspotting, which was pretty much the entirety of America.
Yes, a lot of people watched that movie.
It definitely is in my top 5 favorite movies of all time. I've read the novel. I've watched the movie. I don't even know how many times. I'm gonna not even lie to you. It's got to be over 500, close to 1,000 times.
I'm sure.
But it's such a traumatic film, and a lot of people are like, oh, it's like Requiem for a Dream, and I'm like, it's really not, because Requiem for a Dream shows you 4 separate. Whereas Trainspotting is really 4 characters, but it's really focused on one. And while everything kind of ends horribly for everybody,
spoiler alert.
Yeah, I guess so. But at this point, it's a drug cinema, so not a whole lot's going to end very well for anybody. Anyway, the trauma of Trainspotting, I think, kept people away from seeing A Lifeless Ordinary, and because the style of Trainspotting was definitely a style of movie making that people hadn't seen before, in the way that they made it to where you can kind of feel the need needle going in your arm when you watch Trainspotting. So you watch A Life Less Ordinary and you think, okay, this is very fantasy driven. At the same time, I mean, there's so many different flashes of what Robert's character sees almost as like a premonition. And then there's like that whole last, I would say like 10 minutes before the end where they're sitting in the diner and they're each talking to each other, but behind, it's like, they're both on screen, but behind them is like a bunch of different imagery. And he's talking about how fate intervenes in everybody's lives and this, that, and the other, and like how they were actually meant to. What I'm saying is, I think it fell under because Trainspotting and Shallow Grave were both such dark films that A Life Less Ordinary was probably marketed to people like a very happy-go-lucky movie. And not that it's not, it is. It's a very entertaining movie. But his first two were, as entertaining as they were fucked up.
Yeah.
And A Life Less Ordinary is not fucked up. Like, it ends, I mean, I guess it's got a few fucked up elements, like the whole, there's a few moments that are a little twisted, but overall, compared to Shallow Grave and Trainspotting, it's so much tamer.
No comparison. Yeah. Well, and the other thing is, I don't know if these movies, I remember the late 90s, like just hyper speed kind of films they're very chaotic, right? I think this falls in the realm of that.
That's actually
think of like Go,
that's good.
Right? Another movie.
I never saw Go.
Okay, so another movie that has a similar pacing. Funny enough, it's also about a drug deal, but it also didn't do very well. And it seems like this, I don't know, I just keep thinking of the speed, and it's almost a cocaine fueled kind of movie where it's just like kind of all over the place. Like, don't get me wrong, I really did enjoy this movie. I'm glad you introduced me to it, but it is very non-traditional in terms of movies. Like, this is not a mainstream movie in terms of genre or like how they shot it or how they edited it. And so, yeah, there are a couple movies like this that had that kind of feel to it in the late 90s that just didn't hit the mark for mainstream audiences and kind of flew under the radar, I think.
Yeah, and I actually wrote down, soundtrack has the 90s frenetic bass beats similar to Trainspotting that a lot of people were probably like, okay, this is a bit much for me music-wise, because like...
It's funny, I didn't really enjoy the score of this movie, to be honest with you, but the fact that the movie ends on an Oasis song, I was like, that is the only band they possibly could have picked for this movie because it's 1997.
Oh, sure. Yeah, but we can wrap up talking about this, but I wanted to bring up a couple of things also, another reason why I think A Life Less Ordinary fell under the radar other than the traumatic nature of Trainspotting and Shallow Grave. 1997 brought us some incredible movies, and I wonder if you can guess what the highest grossing film of 1997 was without Googling it. Put your hands up. I don't want to see your hands. I want to see your hands put them up. There they are. Okay, great. So highest grossing movie of 1997. I think it still holds up. I think it's one of the best in the genre. It's a double genre, and it is two actors that everybody knows. But there was a commercial at the Super Bowl this year that actually has one of these actors, and it was a very entertaining commercial about him not knowing a certain actor musician.
Oh, okay. So is the actor you're talking about Tommy Lee Jones?
Yes, it is.
Okay, Tommy Lee Jones movie from 97. Okay. So, Batman Forever
That is not 97.
Not 97. Batman Forever is 95. My bad.
Which I think is the best Batman next to Batman Returns and then, the Nolan Batmans.
I think we just lost all our listeners by you saying that.
Batman Forever is awesome. I don't care what anybody says. I know people think it's terrible. I think it's fucking awesome. I think it's great. It's a lot of fun.
So this is the thing about movies that also I think is going to come up a lot in this show. It's all about how you approach a movie that you're watching. And everybody you can't always have Oscar expectations for every single movie you watch because you're going to be disappointed like 90% of the time, right? If you go into a movie going like, this is going to be campy as hell, but also entertaining, and I'm probably going to have a really good time, then you'll really enjoy a campy movie, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And so like if you go into The Life Less Ordinary, you're like, oh, okay, so this is like a standard rom-com. You're going to be so weirded out.
Oh, 100%. But if you're you said it best. You texted me after you watched it. You said that movie was quirky as hell.
Yes.
And it is.
Yeah.
There's so many different, I mean, the backwoods guy's like, I gotta feed Felix. Like, like that guy he cracks me up. And then when you actually see Felix,
Yes.
And then like the whole Ian Holm, being the dad thing was great because who doesn't love Ian fucking Holm?
So Ian Holm has scarred me for life because of that scene in The Lord of the Rings when he wants his precious back, and the way they CGI'd his face is scarred in my memory forever.
It's pretty brutal.
That's how most people know Ian Holm. So that's the dad in this movie, by the way, everyone.
Yeah, Ian Holm is daddy to Cameron
gosh.
Diaz.
God, that was so good. Okay.
Oh, and who else? Stanley Tucci's in the movie. He's fucking hilarious.
One
which
of
he
my
usually
all-time
is.
favorite actors, who is highly underrated. And you know what? I'm probably
Tucci?
gonna. Oh yeah, I'm absolutely gonna
yeah.
dedicate an entire episode just to Stanley Tucci at some point.
Oh, I'm down. I dig Tucci. I think I don't think I could ever watch Lovely Bones again because of Tucci.
And that's
He
the
was
thing
fucking
is that
terrifying.
he
in that
goes
movie.
from A Midsummer Night's Dream. He plays a forest imp, and then he goes and plays a serial killer, and he is entirely believable in both roles.
Yeah.
Like, that
Oh, yeah.
is an actor, in my opinion. When you can disappear into a role, that's an actor. Like Tom Cruise is always Tom Cruise to me. Like, he's not disappearing into anything. Let's be real. But I
No, that's
enjoy the
true.
hell out of his movies.
Oh yeah. Oh my god. Yeah. I fucking love Tom Cruise. Okay. So.
Okay, so it's not
one more
the-
guess.
Okay, shit. Oh, okay. Yeah, duh. Oh my gosh. Men in Black.
Men in Black. Yes, indeed.
Yay, great. You're right. That movie certainly holds up.
Oh, it does. And oh my gosh, I love it. I still do, and
Mm-hmm.
I can't. Yeah, I saw it. I think 4 or 5 times in theaters.
Nice. I actually really enjoy the third one as well. I thought that movie was really good.
Number 3 is great, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But with it, since we were talking about highest grossing, we'll give you the numbers real quick. Men in Black came in number 1, highest grossing film of '97 with $250,690,539. And I want to say those $39 could have come from myself and my allowance. I love that movie as a kid so much.
You should send you a thank you card.
I know, they fucking should. I still love Men in Black.
I mean, it's Barry
still,
Sonnenfeld.
Yeah.
Like The Addams
Hell yeah.
Family. That man is amazing. I love him.
it's so good.
Yeah.
So good. The number 2
Don't make me guess.
I'm not going to make you guess
Thank
this one.
you.
But the number 2 highest grossing film, and this one actually did surprise me, I'm going to be honest with you, because people rip into it. And I'm going to tell you right now, I love it. And I'm going to tell you why I love it. It's a very quick story. I had just had my second open heart surgery. It was the first time that I had left my house after being discharged from the hospital. I spent like a month and a half on the couch in my parents' living room, just healing, and went to the mall with my parents, and they were changing the marquee of the movie theater of like what was coming up, and this was being put up, and I was like, Mom, Dad, I want to go see that, because they knew why. So I asked the guy putting it up, I was like, is that starting tomorrow? He goes, actually, we're doing midnight shows tonight. And I looked at my parents and I said, can we go? And my parents were like, well, your sister has school tomorrow. And my sister said, no, it's fine. We can go to a midnight movie. I'll be totally okay to get up early and go to school if John wants to see this movie. That's the kind of sister that I have. My sister is fucking awesome. So the movie is, and in my opinion, a fantastic sequel to the greatest movie on the planet Earth. The Lost World Jurassic Park. The Lost World is awesome, and I understand why people don't like it. I truly do. However, I love it. I saw it 3 times in theaters, and the last time I saw it in theaters was with my church pastor. He took me and a friend of mine to go see it.
There are definitely worse movies that your church pastor could have taken you to.
Oh, definitely. And had he taken me to this one, my parents probably would not have been very thrilled with him, because the number 3 movie of 1997, coming in with $181 million in gross, is the fantastically, wonderfully, hysterically classic Jim Carrey caper.
Liar,
Liar,
liar.
liar.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. And now the number 4 movie of 1997, coming in at $172 million. The Harrison Ford, William H. Macy, Gary Oldman caper, Air Force One.
You can't go wrong with Gary Oldman being the villain.
Never at all. And then going after that, number 5 of 1997 was the Star Wars re-release.
This was a really good year for movies.
Oh, I'm not even done yet. Number 6, the Julia Roberts, Dylan Mulrooney fantastic comedy with Rupert Everett, My Best Friend's Wedding.
Which also had Cameron Diaz in it. Which
That's
was released
right.
earlier in the year. And that's
You're
one of the things I was going to
absolutely
talk
right.
about was like, so I was blown away by Cameron Diaz, actually, for a couple of different reasons. The first one is that I like that she was a total badass without being broken. Like, she wasn't this, she was a spoiled rich girl, but she didn't have some brokenness to her. She was just a badass who knew what she wanted, who wouldn't settle for anything.
Yeah.
And, you know, her dad in the beginning of the movie is trying to convince her to marry an orthodontist. And she's like, fuck no, I'm not going to do
Right.
that. I'm like, yes, this is 97 and you're saying this. This is so empowering. I'm so happy. And I like that even after she's kidnapped, she doesn't play the victim. And her... Oh my gosh, her response to the fact that so she asks him how much ransom he's getting, and he tells her, and she's like, "What? I'm worth so much more than that."
How much you're asking for?
$500,000.
Dollars?
Yes?
US dollars.
Is there a problem?
Yes, Robert, $500,000 is not a lot of money for a woman like me.
I didn't mean it as a reflection of you as an individual.
If word got out that I was liberated for $500,000, I could never show my face in polite society again. Diamonds have no value except that which is placed upon
Well, it's
them.
a lot more complicated than I thought.
Okay, don't worry.
Diving into Cameron Diaz's filmography, I've never thought I was a fan of hers, right? I was like, okay, she did The Mask, and then she did some pretty terrible rom-coms, and I'm not really a fan of her. And then I got into it, and I'm like, okay, she's the voice of Fiona in Shrek.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, the other reason I didn't think I liked her, she was in Gangs of New York, which, of course, Martin Scorsese, but terrible accent. She had one of the worst accents. Accents are one of my pet peeves in movies. Like if you're an American who cannot do a European accent, don't be in the movie.
Right.
But
I feel you on that.
But she's in a couple of other movies that I really, really enjoy that are actually going to be on this show. And I kind of gained a newfound respect for Cameron, sadly being retired now, after watching this movie. So I appreciate that.
Yeah. No, I going back to what you mentioned about her character, one of my first notes about her character is Celine is a recluse but uses her time for target practice. We meet her shooting an apple off her fucking butler's head. Like, that shit's awesome. Like,
With
you
a
know,
cannon.
she's truly
With like a
with
cannon of a
fucking-
revolver.
Yeah, revolver cannon. Hell yeah. That shit's badass.
Yeah.
Like, I was really, really down with that. Yeah, her character was really good. Beyond, like, the whole, you know, she's like, oh, these people tried to tie me up, and they asked for $10 million for me during this kidnapping. He's like, you've been kidnapped before? She goes, oh, yeah. I'm the daughter of a multi-millionaire.
CEO. Yeah.
So the final movies of
Yes,
1997 that I thought were
please.
also fantastic. Number 7 is one of my favorite movies of all time, and we were talking about James Cameron earlier. Titanic comes in as number 7. Number 8 was Face Off. Number 9, though, we were talking about Batman earlier. Batman and Robin.
It is not worth revisiting, to a point that I adore George Clooney with the fact that he apologizes every time that movie's brought up, and that was the reason he never ever went to Comic-Con until he did Tomorrowland.
Really?
He never went. He was like, I'm doing you all a favor. I'm not going to show up so I don't remind you of this movie.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Number 10, though, was actually very interesting to me. And I'm going to be honest, I still think it's entertaining of a movie because it introduced everybody to Leslie Mann, Thomas Hayden Church, and Brendan fucking Fraser, George of the Jungle.
Oh, yeah. I'm a big supporter of Brendan Fraser.
Who isn't? Let's be honest.
I love that man. I support that man. And we'll, of course, in the show get into the dark side of Hollywood and what happened to him. And
Sure.
look, Hollywood, like anything, has its good and its bad, and of course, more so than others in some ways. But oh my God, The Mummy is one of my all-time favorite movies.
Oh my God, The Mummy is so awesome.
And
it's so
I love the
awesome.
second one too. Mummy Returns is also one of my favorite movies.
Oh, I love Mummy Returns.
Yes.
I love it. It's so bitchin'.
And so the funny thing is, one of my niche genres that I'm a really big fan of is a married couple caper.
Ooh,
I love movies that have an established relationship already versus, oh, this is a movie about them falling in love. It's like, no, they've fallen in love, they have the day-to-day, and they're still totally kicking ass.
Yeah.
Also, Rachel Weisz, like, how do you not love her?
Oh my gosh.
I mean, kind of want to be here. She's married to Daniel Craig, after all. Daniel Craig, for everyone who's new to the movies, is the recent James Bond.
I've only seen Casino Royale and Skyfall, and I didn't enjoy either of them. Tried to watch Spectre on HBO several months ago. I was really just like, you know what, I'm going to give it another shot. I'm going to give these Bonds another shot.
Don't do it.
Well, I fell asleep and woke up and it was still on, and, whatever. What are you going to do?
That's the saddest review. I woke up and it was still on. I love it. So no, we will probably not be doing a Daniel Craig Bond because that's not a movie that anybody's missed either literally or metaphorically. But I will probably pick GoldenEye at one point in time because
nice. Yeah.
the Sean
Bros.
Bean Pierce Brosnan combo that is GoldenEye, and then Famke Janssen.
Famke Janssen.
Oh my God, Famke Janssen. Like, there are so, and you know what? That is a movie worth revisiting. Of course, it crushed it at the.
Oh, yeah.
It actually reinvented James Bond. That was the first movie after the '80s Roger Moore and Timothy Dalton movies. So.
T-Dalt.
Yep. So anyway, so GoldenEye will probably be on the list though.
So let's move on to yours, but really quickly. This is the last thing I wanted to mention. I had gone through 1997's like top 100 movies, and most notably, I have the top 10. And of the week that A Life Less Ordinary came out, which was October 24th, 1997. So the top 10 films of that week, A Life Less Ordinary came in at number 9.
Okay.
Which is pretty good.
Yeah.
And it made $2,007,279 its opening weekend.
What was
so
its
it made
budget though?
$12 million.
Okay,
It did not make its budget back.
Oh, sad.
Didn't make its budget back, and that's fine. It didn't ruin anybody's career.
No, definitely didn't.
It wasn't a career ruiner,
No.
as a lot of people like to say. But the week that it came out, Lifeless Ordinary was number 9. The 10th movie of that week was L.A. Confidential, which had already been out for 6 weeks.
Shit, that movie
Number
is
10,
incredible.
L.A. Confidential.
That might be on our list too. Just to let everybody know.
It definitely should be, because I'll tell you right now, I didn't like it when I first watched it, but I got to watch it again. It's been on my to watch again list because I respect everybody in it except for Mr.
Of course.
He
who must not be named in this moment.
yeah, unfortunately. But I'll say, sorry, go on.
No, yeah, it's all good. I will say, so a lot of times, and this is going to be one of our not challenges, but one of the things that we work through in this show is, oh man, this movie, is it nostalgic or is it good? My sister so many times will be like, oh man, that movie doesn't hold up, don't do it, when I talk about rewatching something. And I recently rewatched LA Confidential, and I was like, oh yeah, this holds up.
Okay, all right, yeah, no, we'll file that away.
You have my blessing. You have my blessing. So yeah, before we move on, one thing I did want to talk about is a couple other people in this movie that had notable appearances. So Holly Hunter's counterpart as an angel.
Oh yes.
First of all, you did not give me a heads up that there are angels in this movie. I was like, okay, so this guy's a cop. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh no, he's
Del
the
Royendo.
Angel Gabriel. Okay.
Him. I thought you were talking about.
I am. But just the fact that there were angels in this movie, I thought it was a typical rom-com, and I was like, oh no, it's not at all. Yeah, so it threw me for a loop. It was good. But so Delroy Lindo is fantastic, not only in this role but in just about everything he's in. He was in Get Shorty as a gangster, kind of against.
He was in Get Shorty.
Yeah, kind of playing against John Travolta. But the funny thing is that he was in Gone in 60 Seconds as Timothy Oliphant's partner. So Timothy Olyphant, who is in this movie for like a hot second, it's his 5th credit in A Life Less Ordinary. Delroy Lindo is one of the biggest supporting characters. They team up again together, and a couple years later in Gone in 60 Seconds as cops in the movie, which I thought was pretty funny connection. Yeah.
Wow.
And then of course the other person you'll probably recognize is Dan Hedaya, and he has 141 movie credits.
Dan Hedaya. Who was he in Lifeless Ordinary?
So he's see, he's that guy of this movie. Oh, that guy. Oh. He's the Archangel
is he Gabriel?
He will always be known as the dad in Clueless.
Yes.
Always and forever.
100%.
For anybody over 30, he'll be known as the dad in Clueless.
That's actually very true, yeah. Or if you've seen The Hurricane, the cop in The Hurricane.
Yes, he's the bad cop in The Hurricane. He's a bad cop in Shaft.
Oh,
he's one of the douchey husbands in The First Wives Club, and he is also one of my all-time favorites. We've already mentioned it. He is Tully in The Addams Family. He's the accountant in The Addams Family with Raul Julia, and
that's right. Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
He's a great character actor.
He is, yeah, and he's
you
one
either
of those...
hate him or you fucking love him in anything he's in.
Yeah, so why don't you tell everyone where they could watch A Life Less Ordinary?
Oh yeah, so A Life Less Ordinary. Yeah, so $3.99 to rent on Apple/Amazon Prime. And if you can find a practical copy of it, I definitely suggest that you do. It's It's a sweet film, and it ends on a high note. The imagery is fascinating. The soundtrack, like V was saying, is a little frenetic and out there for people, but if you enjoy train spotting and you enjoy a little bit of, fast-paced dialogue, I would say that A Lifeless Ordinary is for you. All right, I'm done now. I think we can segue into V now.
Okay.
Because her movie is also a fantastic quirkiness fun film.
My movie is in my top 5 favorite movies of all time. I had to pick it as the first one because of how it makes me feel when I watch it. I feel like this is the purest form of cinema, is when a movie makes you have the feelings, like good or bad, like when you truly feel something, like that is when cinema has done its job. And so this is The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. It is a Ben Stiller movie, and it just makes my heart soar. I love this movie so much. It makes me want to run out the door and go on an adventure.
Red Bull does not give you wings.
No.
Walter Mitty gives you wings.
Walter Mitty gives me wings. Exactly. So this movie was released in 2013. It had a budget of $90 million. The box office in total was $188 million. So I was like, oh,
no way.
Yeah, right. I was like, oh, this actually did really well. It was only $58 million domestic. It did not do well in the US at all.
Oh my gosh.
And so what we can tell our listeners is there's a budget that is the cost of the movie, and then there's the box office take, which is basically earning the money back. The thing that a lot of people don't know is you usually have to double your budget in order to make anything off of a movie. So say a movie was $50 million, the box office is $50 million, the studio absolutely lost money on this.
Oh yeah.
You usually need to double up. And so it actually did pretty well. So let me go through a little bit of what this movie is about. It's about a man, Ben Stiller, who works at the magazine, print magazine, dating ourselves now.
Oh yeah, we are.
It's called Life. It's a Life magazine that was big. It started in like the 30s and ended in the early 2000s. And he is actually a negative manager. So he manages all of the photos that come through for Life magazine. And they are working on releasing the very, very last issue of this magazine. Life magazine is going digital, and unfortunately, the negative for the cover has been misplaced, and he needs to go find it. And the thing about this movie, or the thing that makes Ben Stiller's character Walter special, is that he has a vivid imagination, and he kind of zones out, and he will have these fantasies of how scenes play out in his life and how things play out in his life that he wishes they were, because he's a very, very introverted man, very quiet man. He's not meek though. I mean, I love that he's like an everyday person. And one of the things I love, one of the early scenes that I really loved is when they're in their mom's house and they go through his old travel backpack and that his dad gave him. And in the span of 90 seconds, they completely paint Ben Stiller's background for the audience, that his dad died when he was a teenager. He was super close to his dad, and he had to start working for his family because he was the oldest child. He was also the son. And so his life took a totally different path than what he had planned. He was this big skateboarder and very outgoing, and then his dad died and completely derailed his original plans, which I think a lot of people can relate to. The thing that makes this movie really interesting, but also I think is the movie's biggest problem in terms of audience reception, is the fact that it's really fantastical. The CGI shots, or the fantasy shots that he has, are really, really fun. Yeah. Really, really interesting. But it's a really big problem for genre fit. And I think that's one of the reasons why this movie fell really flat. And so IMDb lists this as an adventure comedy drama fantasy. That's literally what it listed as. And I was like, yeah, it is. It's all of those things. The other thing I love about this is that it makes you feel seen as kind of an awkward person, and the message I took from it is you don't really need to be superhuman to change the world or live an extraordinary life. I love that so many adventures that he went on, he did all of it alone. And so yeah, just because you experience something alone doesn't make it any less amazing. I loved that message in the movie, that he did these amazing things and he was alone, and that was totally okay.
That is, I think, the biggest takeaway from me, is that he did it all by himself. And one of my favorite parts of the movie is when he's walking through Iceland after he gets off of the boat, and he gets the phone call from Patton Oswalt's character.
God. One of the best additions to this movie.
It's so awesome. And he's like, "Hey, I jumped out of a helicopter into the ocean." There was like 8 people in Greenland, and he's like, okay, I'll put that into your adventures.
You don't have to make it up to about things you've done.
And he's like, I'm not making this shit up. But and that's the thing is like it lays the foundation early on. Have you done anything worthy or mentionable? It's like that is such a powerful line to anybody on the planet. Because the movie opens with him trying to fucking start a dating profile.
Yeah.
Just so he can send a wink to a woman that he works with instead of just meeting her in the goddamn lunchroom and having a cup of coffee and be like, hey.
Hi, how can I help you today?
Hi, I can't seem to leave a wink for someone.
Okay, I'm looking at your profile. You left a lot of this stuff blank.
Well, I haven't really been anywhere noteworthy or mentionable.
Have you done anything noteworthy, mentionable?
I totally understand that not wanting to do things on your own because you don't think it's going to be as grand to anybody else. Because it really fucking will be. Even if you tell somebody and they give you the whole like, that's cool, man, they're going to go home and they're going to tell 30 fucking people about like, dude, I just, you remember that guy that I used to work with? He just fucking climbed the Himalayas. Like, what the fuck? Like all of a sudden this guy's climbing the Himalayas to find out where the fuck a lost piece of film is.
Yes.
Like it's small, but it's so grand because the fact of how small it is. A 35 millimeter piece of film equates to the finality of the magazine, right? Or the finality of an article, or the finality of somebody's career, or I kind of went off on that. I do apologize, but I get it though. The whole like
it's wonderful how grand ordinary life is in this movie.
Right, yeah.
So another thing that I want to talk about this movie, which is another reason why I love this movie, is first of all, the coloring and the shots are so beautiful. And I'm wondering if you can explain to our listeners the difference between a director and a cinematographer, because when we talk about shots and how they're made up, and so many times a director is given this credit for a movie that's very beautiful. Yeah. And cinematographers are kind of unsung heroes of movie making. I'm wondering if you could just explain to our listeners the difference.
I would say that the director has the vision for what he wants the shot to look like. And because the last time I directed anything, I ended up pulling a lot of my inspiration and, references from certain movies that I had seen. I had talked to my cinematographer about exactly what I was looking for. I remember telling him I wanted it to look bruised. So the last project I directed was very bruise-hued, and it was very white and purple and green, color aspects. So I feel like I don't know how to get that. The director of photography does. He knows how to set his aperture, his f-stops, he tells his gaffer and his key grip exactly what he's looking for, and they set up a lighting situation to bring that to life on set as best as possible. And then luckily editing comes into place with, a color correction and all that stuff, and to really accentuate it. So and I'm very glad you mentioned the cinematography, because it is one of the most beautiful films.
Yes.
Just like, it is fucking gorgeous. And the crazy thing about it is, it's not a planet Earth. It's a movie. Yeah. And, the shots of the volcano in Iceland, and when he lands in Greenland, and even just of New York, even of him walking around his kitchen, are just so gorgeous. Like, they're just beautiful. And I'm going to be honest with you, I've watched Ben Stiller for 20, 30 years now. I've never noticed how beautiful his eyes are.
I know, yeah, exactly. Towards the end of the movie, I was like, wow, he has really pretty eyes.
God, those eyes, man. Just can I look? It's like what one of the lines in Superbad is like, have you ever looked into his eyes? It's like when I heard the Beatles for the first time. It's like, it's so fucking true. It's like, my gosh, like the cinematography in Walter Mitty is gorgeous. Yes. It really is.
Yes. And so thank you very much for explaining that to our audience. And also, that is a perfect transition, because we can talk about who's in this movie. So yes, Ben Stiller's in this movie. He is a huge star. He's a Hollywood royalty. His parents are super famous too. Most people have known or seen him. You will definitely recognize him from Zoolander, Meet the Parents, Night at the Museum, Dodgeball, which is one of my favorite roles of his. Tropic Thunder,
Tropic Thunder.
which he also directed.
Yes, he did.
He also directed Zoolander movies.
Yep.
And The Cable Guy. I had no idea he had directed Zoolander, The Cable Guy, and Reality Bites.
I was going to say Reality Bites.
Yeah,
You
huge
didn't know he
cult.
directed Zoolander, though?
But that's the thing. I'm not a huge fan of his comedy.
It's so interesting. So many people are not. I don't know if I truly... I like Zoolander. I really do. I think the first one's great. When I was working on the advertising for Tropic Thunder, I did not think that it was going to be that great. I went to see it in theaters opening night. I was like, hey, I told like 5 of my buddies, I was like, look, I just worked like for the last 4 months on the trailers for this movie. Let's just go check it out.
Please.
If it sucks within like 15 minutes, we will leave. I was beyond elated
Yes.
at how perfect Tropic Thunder was.
It's
Tropic
hard
Thunder-
to do satire, and I was
It really is.
highly impressed.
And not even because of Downey Jr., as wonderful as he was. Everybody.
Oh, Jack Black was
And-
amazing, and one of my all-time favorite
Ugh.
cameos, Tom Cruise as
Oh,
Len
yeah.
Wiseman.
Yeah,
In the
and we
fat
didn't
suit.
get
Oh
any of
my
that footage.
God.
I had
Oh
no
my
idea about it. So when he showed up, I'm just like,
Everybody's
it's-
like, is that Tom Cruise?
It's one of the greatest Hollywood satires
Yes.
on the planet.
Yes.
And it really just like it encapsulates so much. And the thing about it is, like, I was in post-production at the time when I saw Tropic Thunder, and I remember only really getting like some of the more, like theatrical trailer bits. I didn't get a whole lot of the stuff with Steve Coogan. I didn't get a whole lot of the stuff of them like actually like trips in around and like talking about the industry. And after truly being on the production side for the last 12 years, it's right. 100% right.
Oh, yeah.
100%.
100%. Yeah. And
Assistants are exactly how Bill Hader is. And people are exactly how Tom Cruise is. People are exactly how McConaughey is. And I love fucking Pecker. Rum Tum Tugger Nuts. It's the Pecker.
Yes, everyone, please go watch Tropic Thunder.
Definitely.
That is the mention it will and the endorsement it will get on our show. So yes, Ben Stiller directed that. Great job. And then, okay, who else is in this movie? Kristen Wiig, which she's so funny. She's big in SNL. She is the voice of Lily, the agent in Despicable Me who marries Gru, which is an adorable series of animated movies. Please go watch Despicable Me.
My wife likes the first one because it's about adoption.
Yes.
And my wife is adopted.
Also, so Kristen Wiig, you'll also know her from Bridesmaids and the new all-female Ghostbusters. So you mentioned Adam Scott. So the interesting thing
Yeah.
about Adam Scott, so he plays, and that's the other thing about this movie, is that it really is about, in a lot of ways, standing up to bullies. There's kind of like an underlying message. It's not the main one, but so Adam Scott, I only know him from Step Brothers and this movie, and so I've always think of him as a giant douche. Like, I
interesting.
think of him as a horrible person. And the funny thing is, because I've never seen Parks and Rec, I don't know of him as a good guy. I don't think of him as a good guy. I know he plays a really good guy on Parks and Rec, so I thought that was really interesting. He plays a fantastic, terrible guy with an awful beard in this movie.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And then this woman has blown up this last year. Katherine Hahn. She
Oh,
is
yeah,
huge
she's
from
good.
WandaVision. Everybody's talking about her now, but she has been in Hollywood forever. She's amazing. I think she's funny in everything she does. She's in We're the Millers. That is one of my all-time favorite comedies. Oh my god, her and Nick Offerman together are hysterical. Oh my gosh. And then she's also in Step Brothers, married to Adam Scott's character. And oh god, she's hysterical in everything she does. So she plays a quirky sister to Ben Stiller. And then the last two people I want to talk about in this movie, Shirley MacLaine, because she is the most subdued performance I've ever seen her in.
That's a good point.
Shirley MacLaine usually makes her mark in a movie, that she makes herself unforgettable. Shirley MacLaine is an institution in Hollywood. She is incredible. She's had a 50-plus year career. Steel Magnolias, Terms of Endearment, The Apartment. One of my all-time favorites, Two Mules for Sister Sarah with Clint Eastwood. Great Western. And also, Warren Beatty is her brother. So there's that.
What?
I was wondering if you knew that.
I did not know that.
They are
What?
brother and sister. She took her
Different
mother's
dads?
Nope, she took her mother's maiden name.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. So
Oh, whoa.
she's in it as Ben Stiller's mom, but she's so subdued in this movie. You forget that she's in it. She does have one of my favorite lines of hers that I say a lot, actually. Shirley MacLaine's in this movie with Jennifer Aniston called Rumor Has It. Kevin Costner's in it. It's a terrible movie.
Yeah.
Don't watch it. But Jennifer Aniston goes to her house and she's, crying. She's really upset about the situation. And she's like, come on, honey, I'll put on a pot of bourbon. And I just love that line. So, yeah, Shirley MacLaine,
Nice.
one of the original badasses. And then...
Well, yeah, speaking of bourbon, I'm going to take a little...
Exactly. I knew you'd enjoy that line.
Great.
And so lastly, you mentioned him. Patton Oswalt is this supporting character in this movie. He's only actually in one scene, but you hear him a lot because he plays he plays customer support for the dating site that Walter signs up for. And the funny thing is that I knew him from different movies, but one of the other ways that I was introduced to him is his wife, Michelle McNamara. I'm a huge true crime fan. Was one of the original private investigators or like citizen investigators for the Golden State Killer, and she spent years of her life researching these unsolved cases.
No way.
And worked with the cops and really truly helped them solve this case. And unfortunately, she passed away right before they caught him. It was very, very sad. And so they had
they just caught him like within the last 5 years, right?
Yeah, and she died about 5 years ago. And so like I think it was literally within a year that they had caught him after she passed away. And her and Patton had a young daughter together, and it was very sudden. And I've always had a lot of empathy for Patton for losing his partner and the mother of his child. And so normally he's very, very funny. And so yeah, sorry to get a little bit sad there, but he's very funny in this movie. He's very not only a comic relief, but also, not that this movie isn't funny, but like he is definitely a comedic piece of this movie and just a great supporting actor in it. So I really enjoyed it. The interesting thing about this movie is that it was in development for over a decade. And what I learned, which didn't know this, I learned that this is actually a remake. I had no idea.
Yeah. Yep.
So
that I did know.
Yeah, so this is originally... this movie is from 1947, and Samuel Goldwyn made this movie. Goldwyn is a huge name in Hollywood. Like, think MGM, Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer.
Yep.
The lion, that for all of our listeners, it's the lion logo that comes out in the very beginning of the movies with the roar. That's MGM.
Oh, can I give you a little tidbit about the MGM?
Yeah, of course.
Real quickly. The building that Amy and I used to live in, the DeMille Manor, in Hollywood,
yes,
on Argyle Avenue in Franklin, was almost 100-year-old building when I first moved in. Amy moved in and she started doing a little bit of research on it. And on the first floor, which was after the ground floor, there is a corner unit with a pipe that runs from the top to the bottom of the kitchen. And on that pipe are the scratch marks of the MGM lion that was housed in that apartment for a month and a half in the early 1930s.
Oh, God. PETA was not involved.
Yeah. Somehow I didn't see any of Ghosts of Hollywood Past, but before I moved out, I went down there. I was like, hey, man, look, you have a pipe in your room, right? He goes, yep. And I saw major strikes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Poor lion.
Oh, yeah. Anyway, so moving on.
So the interesting thing is that Samuel Goldwyn produced the first one. His son, Samuel Goldwyn Jr., bought the held onto the rights and produced this remake. He had the rights and started developing it in 1994. And the interesting thing is, quick trivia, Samuel Goldwyn Jr., so second generation, his son, Sam Goldwyn's grandson, is Tony Goldwyn, who is the president in Scandal, also the bad guy in Ghost. Huge character actor.
Oh, yeah.
Big supporting guy in the industry. And so I was like,
definitely.
Oh, your family's connected. Got it. So he first started developing this in 1994. Jim Carrey was attached to this movie first, which would have been so different.
Oh my gosh, yeah, would have.
Oh my God,
man.
Jim Carrey in the 90s, it would have been in your face. This is a lot.
94 Jim Carrey, that would have been around the time of Dumb and Dumber, Mask, and Ace Ventura.
Exactly.
Oh man, that would have been nuts.
Bananas. Yeah, I mean, I love the movie.
BANANAS.
Very understated movie. I love that about this movie. So yeah, that would have been crazy. Then Ron Howard got interested. Then Spielberg got interested in this movie. It was going to be a Jim Carrey Spielberg movie, which that would have been just incredible. They both dropped out, and by this time it was 2004. Okay.
This was 2004 when Jim Carrey and Spielberg were attached?
Finally dropped out, and I can't even go through how many writers, of course, this thing had.
Good God.
Then Owen Wilson stepped in.
Wow.
It stalled again. Sacha Baron Cohen was tapped in 2010.
What?
Yes.
What?
Borat was tapped for this
movie.
Yes.
Whoa.
Yes. This is so fascinating.
I would have been down with that one too.
I
love him.
I hope this trivia interests our listeners because I find this stuff fascinating.
No, I'm like,
this
there's
is how
brain
much
matter
goes
behind me.
into making a movie, and this is what I want to teach people. Is like so much goes into making a movie. There's development purgatory that we talk about all the time, and development hell. You know, that's a common term in the industry. So Stephen Conrad was hired to do another rewrite. He wrote The Pursuit of Happiness. Great film. And then Gore Verbinski jumps on to direct.
Whoa.
Gore Verbinski directed all the Pirates of the Caribbean movies.
His first Hollywood film was The Ring.
Yeah, this guy's
That was
huge.
what blew me away. Was The Ring?
Yeah, and then
Pirates of the Caribbean, Curse of Black Pearl.
Talk about range, right?
Oh
so
my God.
Then
I respect Gore Verbinski, though.
He jumps to do, because this is in the early 2010s. So then Ben Stiller steps in. He gets cast as the main. Gore Verbinski drops out. He's like, okay, I'm going to step in to direct as well. And that's how we get Ben Stiller in both.
Cool.
So before Kristen Wiig, when Owen Wilson was the main character, Scarlett Johansson was cast as the lead.
Interesting.
Everything happened but the contract being signed.
No kidding.
I feel like that would have been a much more Wes Anderson style, Lost in Translation kind of film, a lot more angst to it. I don't know if I would have enjoyed that. This movie gives me so much hope. The thing I love about this movie is how positive I feel when I watch it.
I wonder if ScarJo was cast in it, because I do like her.
She's super underrated. I think she's a highly talented actress and singer.
Yeah.
Watch the movie Sing. She's incredible in it. She's a porcupine in Sing, animated movie.
But that's interesting. I had no idea about that, about the development stage of Walter Mitty, which is interesting because it being a remake, you would think that it was already remade, and it did well back then, I imagine. So why not?
Yeah.
But it really does, it does grab you. Like, I'll be honest, like, I really loved it when I saw it. A friend of mine told me about it, and he was like, dude, have you seen The Secret Life of Walter Mitty? And I was like, no. It really didn't look that interesting to me. And like you said, which we might get around to, we will, what it came up against.
Yes.
But I saw it 3-4 months later after its theatrical release. So my buddy's telling me to watch it. He gives me a copy of it, and I watched it one night, and being like, that was a fucking great goddamn movie.
Yes.
Like, that was a great fucking movie. And I told my parents about it, who are people that love movies that are clean and have a fun message and make you feel good.
All of those
things. And I told them about it, and both of them, they were like, well, it's Ben Stiller. I'm like, no. This is Ben Stiller like you haven't seen. This is actually what I think people want from Ben Stiller, regardless of how much love I have for Tropic Thunder. And I love Tropic Thunder. It's one of my most favorites. But The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, when you brought it up, when we were talking about this weeks ago, before we even decided to do this, I was like, yeah, because it's so good. It's such a beautiful movie to look at. And the music's good. The soundtrack's good.
The soundtrack is amazing.
Acting is good.
Yes.
And everything that happens, the way that it's connected so delicately, and the way that his fantasies are almost about what every man, regardless of stature, always wants to kind of just be like. The whole Stretch Armstrong sequence with Adam Scott is so good. It's just so good.
Yes, and I will say I am a sucker for incredible soundtracks or incredible scores. Music really, really, it goes right to my heart. So the fact that this has an exceptional soundtrack is another reason it goes to that next level for me in terms of movie love. So thank you. I'm so glad that you enjoyed the soundtrack as well. And so yeah, like this is a movie. It's very clean. This is a movie for anyone who has ever just wanted to do something extraordinary. Anyone who ever felt like they marched the beat of their own drum, this movie is absolutely for you. And you hit on something that I totally agree with. Like, I saw the trailer for this movie and I was like, Ben Stiller, I'm not going to watch it. I didn't watch this movie in theaters. My sister made me watch this movie because I was like, I do not like Ben Stiller. And she's like, no, you will love this movie. So shout out to my sister Shannon. Thank you. Watch Life Less Ordinary. It has Dobermans in it.
Oh, yeah.
And so the problem is, though, is that, okay, so people like me said, Ben Stiller, I'm not going to watch it. And then fans of Ben Stiller saw the trailer like, this is not funny at all. I am not watching this movie. And so it didn't really capture anybody's attention. And then, top it all off, this came out on Christmas of 2013. This is what it was up against.
God, that was a decade ago.
Yeah, we don't talk about time here. We do not talk about time in this podcast.
2013?
Shut your face. That was 5 years ago. If it was even that long ago.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah. Shut up. Okay, so this is what it was up against. Anchorman 2 had been out for a week. Ben Stiller actually has a cameo in it, which is pretty hilarious. The Hobbit, one of the Hobbit movies was out. Desolation of Smaug sucks.
Oh.
Don't go see it.
I didn't see any of them. I didn't see any of the Hobbit movies.
I love The Hobbit. I love Tolkien. I love The Lord of the Rings. Why take one book and try to split it into 3 just to make more money?
That's what I heard.
That's a bad part of Hollywood. Don't do that, people. Okay, American Hustle had been out for a little while, but it's still raking in the money. Great movie.
I actually really liked
that movie's
American
fantastic.
Hustle.
That movie's fantastic.
Yeah, American Hustle was good.
And then Frozen and The Hunger Games Catching Fire were still out, still making a ton of money. Ton of money. Yeah. And then, what opens the exact same day as Secret Life of Walter Mitty? The Wolf of Wall Street.
Well, there it is.
There's no competition here.
Yeah, I went opening weekend to Wolf of Wall Street. I went on Saturday night.
There you go.
Kingsley. You remember my buddy Kingsley?
Oh, of course. We worked together.
Yeah.
Love that guy.
Yeah. Me and him took his 17-year-old brother to see The Wolf of Wall Street at the ArcLight that opening weekend. Yeah, that was good. That was great.
That 17-year-old brother still remembers that to this day. I guarantee.
Oh yeah,
he
he told me that at the wedding last year. He was like, "I remember when you took me to see Wolf of Wall Street." I said, "Yeah, you do." That's exactly what we did.
That's core memory right there. Okay,
wow.
So highly recommend this movie. A lot of great people, and I love it when a movie, everything about a movie comes together. The story, the acting, the cinematography, the music. It's just so cohesive and glorious. That's why I love this movie.
It really is. It really does, it meshes very well. Secret Life of Walter Mitty has that cohesiveness from beginning to end, like music, structure, etc., etc. And I think even the way that he finally... Well, no, that's spoiling it.
Don't spoil that. Okay, so this is a guarantee of our show. We will never spoil a movie for you because we are recommending them to you. We do not spoil movies here.
Can't spoil.
Can't spoil. No spoiling here.
But no, it's worth it. It definitely is. And especially if you like David Bowie.
Oh, God. Who doesn't? So yeah, tell me, you've shared a little bit. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'm glad you'd seen it before, but also you enjoyed revisiting it. Is there anything you'd like to add about this movie?
I think my biggest takeaway was actually what you had observed, and it was something that I took from it the first time and every time I watch it, was the fact that he was experiencing these things by himself. But not only by himself to an extent, but he was with people, and those people were going to tell somebody else about how they experienced it with him, how he was going to tell somebody how he experienced it with that person. So he's on the one boat in Iceland, gets off at Iceland, and he's met all these people, there's like, oh, be my friend on Facebook, this, that, and the other.
But you're really getting to something that I think I didn't mention yet, and it's the ripple effect that your existence has on others that I absolutely adore about this movie. That you don't have to be, this famous person or a president or change the world in order to make an impact in this world. And I think that's super important.
Yeah, and that's kind of how I feel with that whole movie. It's such a small story, but at the same time, it's like, damn, dude, that's killer. It would be awesome to fucking climb a goddamn volcano and go find this National Geographic photographer.
So yeah, so you can rent this movie on Prime, and also it comes out to stream on HBO as of April 1st of this year. So by the time you're all listening
no
to this
way.
episode, it is absolutely accessible via HBO. So please go watch this movie. All right, now comes the part of our show that we like to call Would You Watch This With Your Grandma?
Oh, Grandma.
Each of us will evaluate our film and tell you who is appropriate viewer for our film. So for Life Less Ordinary, John, would you watch this with your grandma?
I actually probably would. My grandmother likes some weird movies. She's shown me a lot of some interesting science fiction flicks growing up. So I think I don't even know if she would enjoy it, but if I told her about it and that I liked it, she probably would be like, well, let's watch it sometime. I would watch it with my grandmother.
Okay.
I wouldn't watch it with everybody.
So,
Grandma, definitely.
Yeah, and the reason why we do this is, we've all had that coming-of-age experience of watching something super inappropriate with our parents. Ironically, one of the films that happened with, to me, was Something About Mary, Ben Stiller movie. My sister came home from college and said, hey, we should totally all watch this movie, and then watch this movie together as a goddamn family.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it was bad. It was really bad. So yeah, so that's why we have this part of the podcast. Yeah, there's really no sex in this movie. There's not a ton. I mean, there's some violence, not a ton. That truck crash scene was fantastic, by the way. Loved that scene.
Definitely.
But yeah, I agree with you. I mean, you could totally watch this with your grandma. She'll ask you a lot of questions, probably. She'll be like, "What's going on now?"
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which I would pause and totally explain. But yeah, it's a, like you said, it's a very quirky movie.
Yeah.
And sometimes grandmas like quirky.
Yeah.
With The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, what do you think? Do you think you'd watch this with your grandma?
Oh, unequivocally. I mean, I think you and I both will agree that this is a movie that anybody can watch. There's no sex, there's very little violence, it has a fantastic message. I think everyone should watch this movie.
I agree. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right, so that wraps up our very first episode. Thank you all so much for tuning in and listening to us. We're very, very excited for the future. So looking forward to the movies we are going to talk about, the connections we are going to make, and the insider stories we are going to share with you about Hollywood. And so thank you so much for listening in. And please find us on all the social media. We are Movies You Miss Pod on all the social media, including at gmail.com. If you have any questions or requests or suggestions on movies we should cover, we'd love to hear that.
Please send them this way.
Yes, please do. And so we'd like to wrap up our episodes by saying film is a form of art, and in art, every opinion is valid, except if you think
La La Land is a good movie.
We are just coming out swinging with that.
Swinging.
Yep. All right. Well, thanks, folks. Thank you to my co-host, John. Love you, buddy, and I'm so excited to be doing this with you.
This is going to be a good time.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.